Hi, everyone, and welcome to another engaging episode of the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Maheen, and I'm quite delighted to bring you fresh insights from the ever evolving world of digital marketing. In this episode, we'll explore everything from the impact of AI on advertising to the deep importance of truly understanding your customer base. We're very thrilled to have Simon Lewis with us today, a digital marketing maven whose passion for technology has propelled him from the UK to the scenic shores of Vancouver. At BNC, Simon leads a team dedicated to crafting strategic digital advertising campaigns that resonate deeply with target audiences. Join us as we dive into his expert insights and explore cutting edge strategies in digital marketing. Simon, welcome to the show. It's wonderful to have you here. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for inviting me along.
The pleasure is ours. I mean, with your extensive background, particularly integrating AI into digital marketing, our listeners and myself, we are very eager to, kind of glean knowledge from your experiences. And we're very excited to hear how you've navigated these digital waters and really stayed ahead of the curve. Simon, to kick things off, let's reflect on your personal experiences, which can often provide, valuable insights to our listeners, right? You started BNC at your dining room table. Like, what motivated you to take that leap?
Yeah, so I started Binary & Co. In 2019, and I think we've come a fair way since then. I remember sitting at the dining room table and looking at the first month's billing and seeing it was $600 and thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? But like I say, you come a fair way from there. And overall, what propelled me to start was I did feel there was a need for a little bit of a change in the industry. And I've always said that at Binary & Co., our aim is to bring the marketing back into digital marketing, or the marketing to digital marketing. And really, when I look at it, what we see a lot of times is services being sold based on tactical vertical. You see people selling paid search or paid social or SEO or so on and so forth. And while they're very valuable services, there's nothing wrong with that. The way in which you might present that can leave the client a little bit isolated in terms of what is the best course of action, what are the best types of advertising, especially when you look over the history of digital marketing and how those technologies have expanded and how those technologies have become fairly complex. You look within those platforms and the different types of tech that's in there that you can leverage has ballooned over times. And we felt, and I felt at Binary & Co., it was definitely the job of the agency to help or collaborate with clients to guide them through that process, to understand, who the customer was and to build that service around who their customers are, rather than have them make that decision. Oh, I need paid search, I need paid social, I need it. It was for us to say, well, this is where paid search will come in for you. This is where paid social will come in for you. This is where this type of paid social will come in for you. This is where this type of paid search will come in for you. This is where programmatic will come in for you, in really helping to guide the client around that process. And we do that. We have a whole service in and around who the customer is and what their part of the market is, and then we build that digital advertising campaign in and around that. So yes, that was part of the motivation that decided that to take that leap. And like I say, start in 2019. So we're still going, and yeah. That's it.
Your story is quite a testament to the resilience and creativity which is needed to succeed in digital marketing. Now, let's understand the customer needs, because knowing your own audience is more than just, good business. It's so crucial for effective digital campaigns. Simon, how do you approach developing a deep understanding of your clients' customers?
Yeah, it's a good question. And ultimately, we look at it in really two separate flows, or two separate workshops, or however we want to characterize it. And the first one is like who that customer is and what are their needs, wants, loves, that kind of thing, and really trying to identify like where the customer is and what's initially going to motivate them to connect with your clients. And a lot of times we do come across clients that have done that work with brand strategy agencies, with creative agencies, and we work very well with those types of agencies to deliver that brand strategy, to deliver that creative. And I've always had this rather cheesy analogy that we're not the pizza. The brand strategy agency is making the pizza. We're the pizza delivery people. We're the ones that are going to help you deliver that message to your customer in the right place at the right time, so that it really resonates. And having that ability to understand who the customer is, what their wants, needs, and loves are is really going to help to round that process, to really give you that fully rounded digital advertising campaign. And then moving into that and leaning further into that, it's identifying what that potential path to market is for your customer. So what is their initial pain point? What is their initial value proposition? How does the product or service fit with that? And how can you insert that into the decision-making process before then finally going over into that final product push or that high intent purchase. So it really is that case of building who the customer is and building out what their potential path to market is, and then building that in and around their customers, essentially. Yeah.
No, you made a great point that truly understanding customer needs really seems to be at the heart of a successful digital advertising. And on that note, I really want to take an opportunity to connect directly with our listeners as well, because listeners, understanding your customer needs is so crucial, as Simon highlighted already, that think about questions like, how well do you think you know your customers? Are there ways that you could dive deeper to better meet their expectations? Because sometimes, stepping back and reevaluating your approach can really open up new avenues for engagement and growth. And by really thinking about these things, we can really apply insights to nurture and expand our own client relationships. Now, moving ahead in the conversation, Simon, digital marketing landscape is facing a significant shift with the loss of third-party cookies. How do you really anticipate this change will affect analytics and attribution in digital marketing?
Yeah, and I think that's again a really good question, and it still ultimately comes down to needing to gain a better understanding of a customer, because you can't follow them around the internet and gain that understanding. And that really comes in two ways that we're losing. It's not just that you can't sort of stalk them around the internet with remarketing like we used to. It's also that you can't gain that information of where they've been to allow algorithms to characterize them as well as you used to be able to. So it's interesting from that perspective that what marketers are gonna have to do is find ways in which they can gain that better understanding of the customer. Find ways in which they can understand what that path to purchase is, but how along that path to purchase can you identify intent? Can you do data capture? Can you understand what that person is? Gaining that first party data and finding an opportunity to gain that first party data when someone is in the consideration phase, or when someone is initially connecting with your brand, is going to be really important, because then that allows you to understand what resonates initially. Then I've got some first party data on who that person is, and then I can further expand upon that to try and then move them further down. So I think it's really is ultimately it comes back to that thing of needing to really dive into who the customer is, need to dive into what their decision-making process is, and then along that line to understand where can I insert myself as a potential solution to their problems, or as a potential value add. Where can I insert myself in that process that's going to allow me to connect with them in a much more meaningful way, rather than just dropping a cookie on their browser and saying, okay, well, I know who you are. You need to be able to say, how can I give you something that is going to be valuable, even though you may not purchase right now. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's ultimately where the third-party cookie is going to change our approach to digital in many ways. Yeah.
Adapting to these new normals is crucial for the future of digital marketing analytics. But another thing that has an interesting and slightly unique approach to hiring and employment Binary & Co has done so much into it. Can you tell us a bit more about that, please?
Yeah, so yeah, it goes back. Like we started the agency in 2019, pre-pandemic, and at the time, I'd always said we wanted to be a remote-first agency, and it really took the pandemic to normalize it. To make remote seem like not very different. Now you say you're remote, no one really bats an eyelid. It doesn't really make a difference. But back then, it was a little bit different. Um, but ultimately, I think there is a difference between remote and flexible. And so, although we do have core hours at Binary Co, we don't require everyone to work the same times or hours. It allows people to fit work around their schedule and not the other way around. And also, it does the other thing in the sense that, you know, not everyone works in the same way, right? Some people are great morning people, some people are great evening people, and some people want to work, want to get up early, get their work done, get out of the way, move on, so on and so forth. Some people will be very, very different, and you have to speak to those different people. And although we, like I say, we do have core hours, so everyone has to get together at the same time and so on and so forth, we do allow that flexibility to fit in and around what is the best working environment for yourself, essentially. So that's really slightly unique approach in that sense. There are other companies out there doing very similar things, but yeah, that's the approach we've taken. We felt that, like, given the industry that we're in, we can give people that opportunity. It allows us to tap into a slightly different labor market, as it were, and then it's been great in that sense.
And if you build onto this a bit more, Simon, how do you think that that has affected your ability to attract talent?
Yeah, so that's a good question. It definitely allowed us to tap into other markets that we wouldn't have been able to, in the sense that there are a lot of really highly skilled people out there that don't necessarily want to give up their entire time, just to work, or have to be the rigidity of the 9 to 5. And an example of that is, working parents very much so may want to have that flexibility to work sometimes and then still be there at those times that they want to be for their families. We've recently collaborated with a company called the 5 Hour Club out of the UK. They just started in the UK, but we're hoping they're going to come over here, that really looks for jobs for working parents. And when we're hiring, going to be tapping into that market very much. And it allows us in many ways to attract skilled workers, highly skilled workers, that may not be all that incentivized for full-time work. So it's opened that up in the sense for those types of people, and it's definitely given us that opportunity to tap into that kind of highly skilled marketplace, whereas we might not have been able to before, and so that's been really great. And I think it just gives that people that ability to have that flexibility, but also gives them the ability to work in a skilled manner, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's been it's been very beneficial to us as a growing company.
Well, it's quite clear that AI is not just a tool, but a very transformative force in digital marketing. But Simon, what lessons do you think other industries can learn from the early adoption of AI in digital advertising?
Yeah, ultimately, machine learning or AI, or however you want to characterize it, has really been in digital marketing for a while now. Now what we're seeing is, it creeping into other areas of the marketplace, more creative areas, with graphic design or writing, with these NLP models are coming in, and they really are giving people a course for thought as to how that's going to affect their continued working. And within the digital marketing space, we've had machine learning in the advertising platforms for a number of years now, and ultimately, What I would say is, we've become more directors than technicians these days. When I first started, you spent a lot of time adjusting bids or ad creative or keywords or so on and so forth. And you were much, much more in that sort of hands-on, formulating and adjusting the platforms than you ever are now. What you're doing now is much, much more of a directing role. You're taking what the platform gives you, you're understanding it, and then you're feeding it back into the platform. I always give the example to people that say, "Oh, machine learning or AI is going to take over." I always give people the example of the fact that no machine as of yet has passed the Turing test. Comprehensively passed the Turing test. Which is ultimately a test of, is there artificial intelligence and how do machines think and so on and so forth. And one of the things that always falls down for machines when they take that AI test, the Turing test, is they lack context. They don't understand. They see everything, but they don't know what's really happening. And that is the job of humans, to give machines context. So you are a director of the machine's output. Essentially, you are there to understand how you can give it that context, so you can give it a much more human approach, essentially, to your marketing, to your design, to your writing, or whatever it is you're doing. And I think ultimately, that's the lesson that's possibly to be learned here, is think of yourself as a director rather than a technician. Think of yourself as being elevated to give machines context, to push them in the right direction, to get more out of them, and allow them to give you more information as to what might be happening. As the numbers are coming out, as you're seeing them pump out certain output or whatever it is, understand why they're doing it, and then feed back more context to them to give them more of a human touch, or more of a human approach to it. Because, like I say, they see everything, but they know nothing really. So that's really it.
It's all about really staying ahead and being adaptable in today's fast-paced digital landscape. And let's take a pause for a moment here. And this is to connect with all of you tuning in. Really think about the role of AI in your own sectors, because Simon just shared how transformative AI has been in digital advertising. Think about questions like, how might these innovations inspire changes in your business, in your own business practices? Because considering how to integrate AI could really revolutionize your interactions with customers, and then, streamline your operations. But Simon, before we conclude, could you please offer one final piece of advice for our listeners who are aspiring to innovate within their own digital marketing efforts?
Yeah, I think that just comes back to the first thing we touched upon in this conversation, is really keeping the person central to your efforts, understanding who you are aspiring to reach, essentially. Marketers, as well as many other industries, have this thing. They have there's lots of numbers behind them, and there's you can pull out these spreadsheets and you can look at various different analytics dashboards and so on and so forth. But behind those numbers, if you're doing your job correctly, are people. Those numbers are mapping, people's behavior, and it's really understanding that behavior through the numbers that is really, really important with marketing and many other industries. And so I would countenance people to say, always keep that central to your thinking. Always keep that central. Like, these aren't just numbers. These are people. This is human behavior that I'm looking at here. What does it mean, and how can I help my client, my boss, or whatever, to further understand the human behavior and push our services or product in the way that we would like to, and have them be seen the way we'd like to. What do those numbers mean, and what is the person that I'm trying to reach? Essentially, would be the key takeaway.
No, thank you so much, Simon, for joining us today and for sharing your expertise and stories. We've covered a lot of fascinating topics. I mean, we've explored how AI is reshaping digital marketing, the importance of understanding customer needs, and really adapting to the significant industry changes like the loss of third-party cookies. So, again, thank you so much for your insights and for your time today.
Thank you, Maheen. Thank you for inviting me.
And that was the end of our discussion with our guest, Simon Louis, to whom we'd like to extend our gratitude, as well as to our partners to whom we'd like to extend our gratitude. Our exclusive banking partner, RBC, shipping partner, UPS, email partner, Constant Contact, and exclusive hospitality partner, IAG Business Edge. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to our Canadian SME magazine by visiting CanadianSME.ca to stay updated on more insightful episodes. Until next time, continue supporting your local businesses and thrive in the world of small business. Thank you.